Good afternoon, students and friends. We are in John chapter 1, verses, 6 through 13 is what we're going to look at today. But before we jump into that, I want to give you an illustration and kind of point to some decisions, a little history, if you will, from some Christian leaders in the past. His name's Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was born in Germany in 1904. A very familiar person if you've read some of his books. But he was a scholar, a teacher, a pastor during the whole process of when Hitler took his rise to power. Dietrich Bonhoeffer realized at a kind of early stage that this Adolf Hitler was an evil man and his schemes were evil, and he wrestled with what was he to do in light of everything. And so we see that he joined a resistance movement which would lead to his arrest, trying to rebel against what Nazi Germany was doing. He was even linked to trying to help plot assassinating Adolf Hitler. This led him into prison, and it actually led to him being executed. I think it was, if I look back, it was just 4 weeks before the Nazi regime ended is when he was put to death. And so he wrote some letters to friends and families. In that, I'm going to summarize. He says this: he understood that even if they were successful, his life would never be the same. That this one decision would define him. That this one thing would define him. Can you imagine realizing that one decision could define your life? As we continue to study John, we're going to learn that each one of us faces a life-defining moment. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And so I'm going to read John chapter 1, verses 6 through 13, and we'll discuss it. Here we go. It says, "There came a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light. There was the true light, which, coming into the world, enlightens every man." Verse 10, "He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. But as many received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, even those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor the will of flesh, nor the will of man, but of God." We see John takes a turn as he continues his theme about believing and making a decision. But what we see is John takes a turn to talk about a man named John the Baptist. John never refers to himself in his gospel as his name John. So anytime you see John, he's talking about John the Baptist. And John the Baptist is going to relay a message. And really this message leads to a decision. Who are you going to follow? Are you going to follow Jesus, or are you going to deny Jesus? And what we see here in verses 9 through, I believe it's at least 10, we see that it says Jesus came as a light. But the world was blind and could not see it. You know, the one who created the world was in the world, yet the world didn't even recognize him. I read this from a notes. I really like this in the book. It says, "Jesus made our eyes, yet we refuse to see his glory. Jesus made our ears, yet we refuse to listen to his words. Jesus made our heads, yet we refuse to bow before him." John illustrates here what the proper witness of Jesus Christ does. John the Baptist, is not the light himself, yet all we can do is what John does. He reflects the light of Christ. His life reflects who Christ is and leads people to make a decision on who Jesus is. So when we look at verses 11 through 13, one thing I see in 11 is there's still this idea that of believing. You know, it says he came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. Jesus' people, God's chosen people all the way from the Old Testament, was who? Israel, the Jews. The Jews didn't even receive Jesus. One of his own did not receive Jesus as their Messiah who would come, even though he was prophesied. And so what we see here is Jesus rejected, for the most part, those who turn and receive him. They had been lost in darkness, but they embrace the light. The only way some were able to receive him was what? By believing. We see that again, here, again, and again, is this idea of those believing in him. So his own didn't receive him, but he still offers something. This is what it is. I love this in verse 12, and we're about to wrap it up. Ready? It says, we receive Jesus, we become his children. Verse 12, but as many received him, to him he gave right to become children of God. What an amazing thing we see here. That you have a decision to make. I have a decision to make. Are you going to receive Jesus? Are you going to place your belief, which we talked about a couple days ago, in the Son of God, the one who came to rescue us from our sins, the one who came to defeat sin, death, and the grave? Will you choose him? When you choose him, what do we get? We get to be called children of God. Children of a good Father who takes care of us, who supplies our needs, who extends heaven to us. What an amazing promise here we see in John. Man, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you later.